Hello, New Hope family. It's good news. The cloud is moving. You remember the cloud, right? From the Old Testament? God's presence that descended over the tabernacle, and that's how the Israelites knew where to go as they were following God through the wilderness to get to the promised land. This cloud would settle over the tabernacle where they would worship, where Moses would speak to God. And then when the cloud would go up and would move, they would just pack up all their tents. They were very mobile. And they would follow this cloud, and then it would settle in another place, and they'd stop there. And that's how they followed God through the wilderness. It wasn't with a map. It wasn't with their common sense. It wasn't by following the stars. It was, where is God moving, and how can we follow him? So this is exactly where we are in a season of New Hope. It's not, okay, what's the map? It's not, okay, what's the plan? It's not, how is church supposed to be done? It's not, what have we always done? It's not, what are other churches doing? It's, where is God moving? How can we follow him? I keep using the word follow the fruit, meaning like what fruit is happening in our lives? Where are we seeing ourselves come alive in our faith? Where's the fruit in the community around us? Where are we seeing people come to faith? How are we best serving? And the most important thing we can do is just serve and love our neighbor. Where is that happening? And that becomes the cloud of God's presence. We're saying we're following that. And so as we head into the fall, the missional community leaders and Danny and I have been talking, and we're trying to follow this cloud. And we feel God shifting some things, wanting us to try some new things, wanting us to adapt how we do things so that we can pursue the fruit, so that we can follow God's presence, not just say, oh, this is what we're doing, this is what we're always going to do. No, we want to do whatever God wants us to do. And so before I give you just a quick kind of preview of what the fall is going to look like and some of the changes that we envision helping us pursue mission and serving, I just need to take 2 seconds here and read about how this cloud moved and how the Israelites followed it in the Old Testament, because it really is our story as well. And I love this. So in Numbers 9, Moses records what this was like for Israel, and it's kind of what it's like for us too. So Numbers 9:15. It says, on the day that the tabernacle was set up, the cloud covered the tabernacle, the tent of the testimony. And at evening it was over the tabernacle like the appearance of fire until morning. So it was always, the cloud covered it by day, and the appearance of fire by night. And whenever the cloud lifted from over the tent, after that the people of Israel set out. And in the place where the cloud settled down, there the people of Israel camped. At the command of the Lord, the people of Israel set out, and at the command of the Lord, they camped. As long as the cloud rested over the tabernacle, they remained in camp. Even when the cloud continued over the tabernacle many days, the people of Israel kept the charge of the Lord and did not set out. Now sometimes the cloud was a few days over the tabernacle, according to the command of the Lord. And according to the command of the Lord, they remained in camp. And then according to the command of the Lord, they set out. Sometimes the cloud remained just from evening till morning. When the cloud lifted in the morning, they set out. Or if it continued for a day and a night, when the cloud lifted, they set out. Now, whether it was 2 days or a month or a longer time that the cloud continued over the tabernacle, abiding there, the people of Israel remained in camp and did not set out. But when it lifted, they set out. So, whether we're meant to stay in one place for a minute or for a lifetime, that's not the point. Whether it's a day, whether we're meant to be in backyards or at the chapel, whether we're meant to be at L Street or the foster care system, or whether we're meant to be anywhere else. The point is, where is God leading us? Because we want to be where he is. We want to be putting our hands into the soil right where he is, because that's where the fruit is going to be. And so, back in the beginning of the pandemic time, as many churches were trying to continue their worship services on Sunday mornings, but in a very restricted manner, with masks on and distance. It was important to some churches that they maintain the gathering of people in a traditional worship service, because it felt like, well, that's how we're continuing our worship. But for us, we felt like we need to be in relationship with each other, and we need to be reaching out to the people around us. So we desire this more relational, more outreach-minded model than what we can achieve on a Sunday morning here in the building, where many people didn't want to be indoors, and so it would be a small number of people masked up, not relational, not outward. And so our home settings gave us that opportunity. So moving to the homes every Sunday of the month was an opportunity to follow that cloud to where relationship would be, where service would be, where the fruit would be. And then as these last 4 or 5 months since the lockdowns have been removed, we've been kind of like half and half and saying, well, where's the fruit between this? And I think what we've seen, there's fellowship and there's outreach, and there's gathered worship. Those are kind of like our three core elements right now that we're using to pursue God's kingdom. And it feels like in the missional communities, the fellowship is more authentic than ever. It's more beautiful than ever. It's growing. We're developing true koinonia. So that's beautiful. And the serving is happening more than ever. Think of all the serving, all the people that have experienced the love of God through us over those last couple of years. It's like staggering, far more than probably the whole history of the church. Like, it's beautiful. But it feels like the home worship part of it has maybe given us a feeling of separation between the groups and not enabled us to have as much communication as a full body, and maybe not as much of the ability to encourage one another as a whole body. It's limited me a little bit in my ability to teach and communicate to the whole body at once. And for our children, we have a lot of children in my own missional community, it's put children in different missional communities and not enabled us to necessarily gather them all in one place to teach them how to be missional, how to follow Jesus in their own lives. And so for the fall, where we see the cloud kind of moving, is gathering on Sunday mornings here at the chapel at 11 a.m. each week. So weekly gatherings, corporate gatherings here at the church, but then continuing our meals and home fellowship times as missional communities the same way we have, and continuing our outreach as missional communities the same way we have. So it's a little bit of an exchange of Sunday morning worship time, but a continuing of everything else that has been really providing so much more. You know, we didn't have these home gatherings and this fellowship pre-missional communities. We didn't have these small pockets of believers out there actively serving the community pre-missional communities. But right now, we're really feeling like we need to kind of gather together to be able to equip these missional communities and not have them feeling like they're on their own, not having us become more and more disconnected, and certainly have a way to be able to invest even more in our children, who we want to grow up to be the next generation of Christians. So the shift for the fall actually is 2 services here at the chapel at 11 a.m. each week. But in my mind, it's funny because we moved away from chapel services in an effort to support fellowship and outreach, but we're moving to weekly services now for the same reason. Actually want to support fellowship, not just on an individual level, but on a full church family level. And we want to support outreach. You know, one of the things that's been challenging is different missional communities doing different things, but then others in other groups not knowing what they're doing. Like, I'd love to join in with the Phase 5 missional community if they're doing something, but I wouldn't know about it. So that corporate time actually gives me and you the opportunity to say, oh, that's what's happening over there. I want to jump in on that. You know, if we stay too divided, we end up becoming this loose network of kind of like 5 different home churches, you know, and we're different, but kind of like a denomination or something, like loosely affiliated. That's really not the vision that Danny and I and the other leaders have for that. We want to be one New Hope family that isn't just mobilized out into the community to do great things for the Lord. It's that people could see our good deeds and glorify God in heaven, as Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount. So the shift to weekly services actually isn't a shift back to what we were doing before. It's a opportunity to support these missional communities, to gather and say, okay, missional communities, what's going on in your mission fields? What prayers do you have? What challenges are you facing? How can we equip each other to then go out, to have meals and fellowship, to be in our backyards, to go out and serve, whether it be L Street or any other location? So that is one of the shifts for this fall, is to weekly services here at the chapel. And if one of the missional communities, one of us says, you know, this Sunday morning we really feel led to go and do something, well, then take the Sunday morning. We'll continue worshiping here. We'll be praying for you. We'll talk with everyone here at the chapel and say, one of our missional communities is out in the community right now serving. Let's pray for them, that God blesses them on their street evangelism or on their home repair project as they bless this neighbor, or whatever it may be. So we'll stay flexible, keep trying to follow God's presence wherever He'd have us go. But we're feeling like He's calling us to gather together. And this leads me to the children portion of it. With it being challenging with our younger children who don't have cars and can't drive themselves to their own missional community, being sort of at the mercy of our parents' scheduling and all those things, it's been challenging to know how to equip and train them uniquely and specifically. And so as we get back to these weekly chapel services, we are not going to be starting up Sunday school and curriculum kind of in the way it was before. Instead, we are going to be starting a new missional community just for our kids. It'll be grades K through 6. We're just calling it Mission Kids. And each week, as their parents kind of bring them here and as the kids gather, whatever adults that feel led to participate will help gather these kids together and say, well, what does it mean for you to serve your neighbor? How does God love you? What are your gifts? How can we reach out and help train our kids to become the future generation of the church, the future missionaries, maybe the current missionaries, despite their age, their young age. So we're looking forward to a new missional community focused on kids, hoping that Sunday mornings can be a place of equipping and communicating and teaching and encouraging. We're continuing our missional communities. Hopefully they will grow. My prayer is that they'd multiply and pop up even more combinations of people who want to have fellowship with one another, pray together, life on life kind of koinonia, the way the early church had it, and be very active in serving those around. I'm praying for more people to come to Christ this fall. I'm praying for more baptisms this fall. I'm praying for us to feel invigorated in our faith this fall. And I feel like as we follow God's cloud here of his presence, that we're going to see more of those things. So be praying with me for them. So the last point that I want to share about these is an opportunity for us to discuss all these things together and to brainstorm. And so the last Sunday in August is a 5-Sunday month. So the 5th Sunday, we'd like to put on a real simple potluck here at the chapel at 11 a.m., kind of our service time, 11 to 12:30, and to just have a meal, mingle and fellowship a little bit, and then kind of have an open forum, round table, town hall meeting, whatever you want to call it, as a church family. And I'm sure we could probably talk for 6 hours, but we'll just take some time that morning and say, what are the places that we've seen God moving? Where have we seen him really move in our home gatherings? Where have we seen him really move in mission and outreach? Where have we seen him move in our own personal spiritual lives over these last months? What have we learned? We need to learn from one another so we can pursue God. What have we seen him do here in our corporate gatherings? And so as we start into September, then our 11 a.m. worship gathered times, we're trying to equip those missional communities, we'll be able to do it together with all of our thoughts, everything we've seen. So kind of a fellowship meal, an open forum. We'll send out more details in the upcoming weeks as to how that potluck will go. Hopefully Nicole and others can help us organize it and just keep it really simple, but give us an opportunity to share and brainstorm and pray together. So these are the thoughts. I'm very excited about what the fall could bring, and I hope you are too. I hope you do see God moving in your life, and I hope you know that God just wants nothing more than to be with you, for him to be at work in your life, and for you to be willing to let him use you in whatever way he sees fit to build his kingdom and to bless you. God is certainly blessing us, and he's a good God. So we're excited for the good things that he has planned for the fall. So I'll leave it at that. I will look forward to seeing you this Sunday for our Serve Home celebration worship service at the chapel, and then one missional home worship, final missional home worship Sunday morning, and then the 5th Sunday in August, which will be our potluck here at the chapel. And we'll talk, we'll pray, and then we'll see where God sends us this fall. Wherever the cloud goes, we will follow. God bless you, church.